Quentin Alexander. I'm the current president of the Rotaract Club at the United Nations. And today we are having Stefan Jekyll that will be our speaker. It is one of our professional development event, and it will be led later on by Antonio. Thank you everybody for joining. It's very nice to see people from different areas, different countries. So thank you for making the time. I know it might be late in your country, so we really appreciate it. Antonio, if you want to introduce our speaker tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Quentin. So hello everyone once again, and thank you for joining. I'm beyond delighted to introduce our speaker for tonight, who is Stefan Jekyll, who has been a long-term friend of our Rotaract Club, and he has actually contributed to us in a number of ways so far, including sharing job postings in our regular newsletters, which benefited our members, and of course, much more than that. And additionally, our topic for today is going to be personal finance, as we are currently in April, which is marked as Financial Literacy Month. And furthermore, Stefan is the head of international listings at the New York Stock Exchange. So finance, or personal finance for that matter, are topics far from foreign to him. And with that said, I'll pass it over to Stefan.
Well, thank you, Antonio, and hello everyone. And if I may add to the introduction, I've been president of this fine club here 20 years ago. So time flies, and a lot of things change, but I think some things do not change. I see a great international spectrum here in our club, and also yeah, the energy and the activities and the packed calendar is there. So, and I know it's always a challenge to keep Rotaract clubs running with the inherent turnover and moves that we have within the demographic. So it's a huge testament here that yeah, for more than 25 years now, that this club has kept its vibrancy. And currently I'm a member here of the Rotary Club of Metro New York City, and we also do a partner, and we are joining on many occasions. I can think of the tremendous toy drive that we do in December. I know here we'll try to get a photo up for the JFK 5K run or walk, I shall add, for those who don't think 5K or jogging for half an hour is made for them. You can also walk, and it's a phenomenal affair here on Sunday on the tarmac of the Rotary of JFK, of one of the runways at JFK Airport. So well, good seeing many of you here, seeing many of you again, although not the same here on Zoom, but we all learn to appreciate the option to at least have the flexibility and the optionality to connect here via video screen. And about my brief talk today, it is Financial Literacy Month, and something that's very high on my agenda personally and on that of my employer. Antonio mentioned I work for the New York Stock Exchange. My team and I, we take care of our international listings, meaning you have companies from abroad listed here on the exchange, and tomorrow morning you can go and could go and buy their shares, be it Sony or Spotify or Petrobras or SAP or 540 others. So that means what international listings on the NYSE. And today I actually want to speak about a lot of things except shares or except any details. I want to speak about concepts here of personal finances, and also happy to take questions in between. Not sure about the practicalities here. If you want to raise your hand or simply speak up, please feel free to do so. So I want to touch, in my brief talk today, I want to touch on some concepts, on some frameworks here for personal finances, and with an emphasis on well, savings and retirement savings. I know here in the audience we have, needless to say, a lot of people of a young age, so which is actually perfect. If you can, any dollar you can put away now, it's paying dividends over and over. We'll get to that in a moment. And it also is a an audience here with with an international background, and I'm going to mainly talk about the US. So if you're about some of the vehicles and so on that I'm going to touch on, it maybe a bit US specific, but I think in general, again, I intend to talk in concepts broadly. I think it would also, the themes, I'm sure, at least apply internationally. But what I want to do, again, a few cornerstones here of personal finances that I want to touch on, and then also go into a Q&A later, as mentioned. A few things, and also when you start a job or so, it may be in some employee handbook, metaphorically speaking, or on the intranet, or on the workspace when you start working somewhere, about options that are available for you to start with your first paycheck, essentially, to start retirement savings. And again, each dollar you put away at an early age is gold. But before that, I want to speak maybe a bit about the pecking order, because I mentioned also with the demography we have in today's meeting, obviously inherently, and Nicholas mentioned it, student debt. Okay, there's realities. You have cash outflows. Here you live in New York. You have rent or a mortgage, or you have rent. That's obviously a very hard-coded outflow. So you also want to go out, you want to go bowling, you want to enjoy your social life. So that's obviously also something you should not forfeit. But within all this, if there is a chance for you to put money away for your retirement, the earlier you do it, the bigger of a nest egg you're going to have later on when you retire, whenever that is, if it's 60 or 65 or sooner or later. But starting early, I mean, and I mean, if possible, starting with your own paycheck, with your first paycheck, it is highly advisable. No employer is gonna push you into, gonna nudge you if you're not signing up for a savings plan that your employer is offering. It's going to be there. It's in your, again, in your handbook or in your virtual handbook when you start working somewhere. But to start saving, and no amount is too small. No amount is too small to start saving in what typically is a 401k. And if we were in a room, maybe we'd do a quick show of hands. Who's working? Who has started working? Who is participating in a 401k, in a savings plan? We would do that. We'll do it here in our minds. But if you're employed, if you have access to put money into a 401k, please strongly consider doing it. Because also what usually and quite regularly comes with a 401k is something called a matching contribution, meaning sometimes hear 3%, up to 3% of your income that you put away gets matched with 100% by your employer. So the money you put away gets doubled immediately. I mean, there's no better yield than doubling your money immediately. So think for yourself. Again, being employed, and again, having financial realities, constraints, budget items, I mentioned them earlier. But if you can put, I'm saying even $20 or $100 a month away, and you get those matched by your employer, please do it. If you haven't gotten around to it, so to say, please consider doing it. And of course, I should add to my pecking order from earlier also, I know we have mentioned the hard-coded items like rent, like student debt. You should also have a 3-month cash reserve. Obviously, there's no limit to how much bigger it could be, but also think about having a 3-month cash reserve in your online savings account, or in fully liquid assets, or in a fully liquid form, that if and when you run into hardship, or if you had an accident and maybe you're on limited pay, on a 60 or 80% pay, or even worse, you lose a job or you decide to take a job break. And again, 3 months of cash needs, to have that in your pocket in a liquid reserve that immediately is there, that is not subject to any fluctuation. Consider also having at least a 3-month minimum cash reserve for your cash needs there. I know it's a lot. I know we're all on in early professional years. We all are on a purse string budget, but keep those conceptual items in mind. And coming back to the theme of like options for retirement savings, I mentioned the 401k. If you're in an employment situation, if your employer is sizable, typically there's a 401k. And right now 17 million Americans are not taking advantage of the 401k, of their 401k. So have not signed up to, again, even saving 10 or 20 or $50 a month, and again, getting those matched immediately by the employer, and having that money grow then until you withdraw in your retirement. By the way, 401k, it's pre-tax money, so it also lowers your taxation. You get taxed later after 65 when you withdraw the money. But also here, with what you put into the 401k comes out of your pre-tax salary. So the top line of your paycheck is what goes into your 401k, and again, immediately gets matched by your employer typically. If you're not in an employment situation, or if you're in maybe a small startup, or you're a solo entrepreneur, there's also a way to save money where you would put your after-tax money into a Roth IRA. And that means Roth, R-O-T-H-I-R-A, Roth IRA, where you can save up to $6,000 a year from your after-tax money, from money you have, or maybe even have there and available and disposable. You can put up to $6,000 a year of your taxed money, of your after-tax money, of money from your bank account into a Roth IRA. In that sense, the taxation is actually the other way around. I just said it, the money you contribute is already taxed. So that money that's growing in that account actually then can be withdrawn tax-free later on after you're 60 or 65, whatever the number is or will be when we get there. But Roth IRA, anybody can do it. Anybody who earns less than $144,000 a year. Anyone who has less taxable income, less than $144,000 a year, can do it. And you can currently you can put away up to $6,000 from your money of your taxed money, and that money is going to grow tax-free. So whatever that money that you put away once or year after year, ideally, whatever that money is growing into, later when you take the money out, you're not getting taxed because you put post-tax money in. So it's also a sphere, a bucket that you could consider, even in addition to your 401k. It does not exclude each other. Again, the limitation is you need to make less than $144,000 in order to have and contribute to a Roth IRA, to put these up to $6,000. Also, there no amount too small. You can put $20, $50 away. You don't think $6,000 is the maximum, but to put that into that, again, tax-free growth sphere, cloud. That is something, again, also to consider in the mix. Again, as I said before, I'm speaking purely in a US context, here in a US employment context. But again, the concepts apply that if you can put any dollar away in an early age, do it, and you'll be rewarded royally with year-over-year growth, with compounded growth of that early sacrifice, or again that early savings that you made. Also psychologically, with a 401k, it's also a bit like money that you never had. So if that may help a bit, because it's also, you never had that money. It's sort of untouchable. I mean, you can make emergency withdrawals and you get like a 10% penalty or something. You can make emergency withdrawals, or you can borrow against your 401k. But yeah, in a simplified way, it's money you never had. You put away, you lock it away, you let it grow. You invest typically in funds, in ETFs or other mutual funds, and you let that money grow in a way that cannot be easily touched. Again, you can tap it by making an emergency withdrawal, or by taking out a loan against yourself and paying back your own loan. But those are well, two of the concepts I wanted to touch on. And maybe before I open it up for Q&A, I mentioned earlier, like a rather current number of 17 million Americans that do have access, whose employer does offer a 401k, and 17 million Americans are not taking advantage of it. There's another number I wanted to share. I know we're like here, again, people with their first job or first jobs typically, but also there's that number that 24 million Americans have money sitting somewhere where they did once contribute, maybe at a past employer, and maybe they didn't track, or they didn't or forgot about the 401k. And there's 24 million Americans that have a savings account with a previous employer that they're seemingly forgot about or are not checking in on. And there is also a national registry that you can access. I saw the name here. So National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. Okay, so that's a very functional name there. The National Registry of Unclaimed Retirement Benefits. So if you thought, hey, actually there was something with a job ago or a few jobs ago, and I forgot what it was, so you can check on that. And in the 401k actually that I mentioned, you can take with you, you can roll forward. If you're going from employer A to, you start a new job next year and that company has a 401k, you can actually take that money from your previous job and roll it into the 401k of your next employer. So keep in mind that money is portable, it's cumulative, and you can take it with you. So if you have again, even if you have like 3 or 10 jobs over time, you can take that 401k with you, and the cash from the previous employer gets wired to the next employer, and it's a seamless transaction. It does not trigger any taxation or anything. So rolling over, taking things with you. So keep that in mind in terms of in scenarios of any job changes. But with that, maybe I'll open it up to Q&A. If there's any questions, observations, comments, please.
So I'm curious, Stefan, I know you were talking about options between a 401k and a Roth IRA. I know some people who have a full-time job, and also have a 401k with their job, but also decide to get a Roth IRA to put in. I just want to know, I mean, obviously based on your expertise, what the benefit of doing that outside of just diversifying your retirement money is, if there's any, and is that even better than putting it into a brokerage account, just if you want to have the money growing either at a faster rate or a more consistent rate as well too?
Yeah. So a few things. So, but you're right in all these respects. I'm gonna expand on it a little bit. So the 401k obviously is great because you have the matching, right? So you at least can take or skim, or at least say if you have the flexibility of saving up to 3 or 6% of your pay, then I would say at least at a minimum, go to that point where you actually save the percentage that gets matched. So if that's I think typically it's, and I think it was, and hopefully no cuts, it is a 6%. I think 6% is common. So if you can put away 6% of your pay, do that, because with that, you at the very least get the match and immediately double your money. And you can, by the way, I didn't mention, for the 401k, you can currently put away up to $20,500. So that's the maximum that you can put away tax-free. And again, the first 6% of your salary get matched. If you're saving 10% of your salary, then the employer will still only match 6%. So 6% is the maximum. So that, I would say, 401k, at least, if you can, at least put away the percentage of money that gets matched. Then, secondly, and then decide for yourself if you can, if you want to go even higher, again up to 20,500, you can put away tax-free. Then, secondly, the Roth IRA with the $6,000 a year that you put in, and that grows tax-free. There, the big advantage and appeal is, of course, that it grows tax-free. So that money you invest, and you can, with your Roth IRA, you can invest into stocks, bonds, funds, anything you like. In some instances, I don't know if we're fully there yet, but even crypto optionality will come in. Also, because also you can mirror some of the cryptocurrencies through ETFs. So the benefit of the Roth IRA, so if you then still have $6,000, up to $6,000 a year left, go into the Roth IRA, and that money will grow tax-free. And that's also phenomenal. I mean, with the 401k, the matching is phenomenal. With the Roth IRA, the tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawal later on is phenomenal. And then now you asked, how does that compare and contrast to a brokerage account? So keep in mind, I mentioned earlier that that money you put into a 401k or Roth IRA, you essentially cannot touch until you're, again, I'm saying roundabout, until you're 65. So if you're saving money because you're getting money together for a down payment here, and you need, again, in New York, it's like $80,000 or $100,000 because you're saving money, you're investing money, you're accruing money, you're growing money, because your next goal is to have a down payment for an apartment or any real estate. Then, of course, you need to rely on like a brokerage account or similar, because you need access to that money when you reach your savings goal. You cannot, again, you cannot, even when I said earlier, you can borrow against a 401k, let's neglect that for a moment. So, but think of the 401k and the Roth IRA of money that essentially you cannot touch until you're 65. So that balancing act, if you have the flexibility, if you have the full bandwidth, you need to then sit down, or with a financial advisor or friend, you need to sit down and say, hey, when I turn 30 or when I turn 35, or I want to buy an apartment, and I will need again $80,000 or $100,000 for a down payment, that you need to grow in a, I would say, in a traditional savings account, in a traditional brokerage account, because you need to touch that money. You need that money. You need access to that money. Yeah. So that's a bit like the compare and contrast, and also, of course, in a good way with Roth IRA and 401k. Ideally, it's also, I mean, it's on purpose that you can't just go and touch and withdraw the money. It's also a bit like protecting yourself from yourself a little bit, like, because it's there, it's growing, it's if it's a dire emergency, I know you can touch the money again with a 10% withdrawal penalty plus taxes, but it's also there to be shielded, to be safeguarded a little bit from not be from the temptation of maybe tapping or withdrawing the money for vacation. I'm paraphrasing.
Thank you. Of course, yeah, I was really considering taking my 401k out and just going on vacation with it, but now you've really
until we win the lottery. So
I'm not going to do that now. So thank you.
I'll just quickly add that I just learned is that if you work at a place where you get a bonus on top of your salary, you can have that be rerouted to your 401k. So you can have that be added to your 401k. Partially all of it. So that's something also to talk to HR about when you get a bonus, if that applies to you.
And in your 401k accounts, in the contribution section, you even have where you have the percentages, where you put the percentages. You then also have like the percentage of your base pay and the percentage of your bonus. You usually have like the two different fields there. Yeah, Maya.
What's your, well, first of all, you mentioned that Roth IRA will also be a mix of potential in the future also crypto, but what's your take also in crypto in general for diversifying your portfolio?
Absolutely. So I'm not sure yet. So I know my company, we have our 401k with Fidelity, and I don't think with Fidelity right now I could buy crypto, at least outright. I don't think I could buy it. I could buy, of course, ETFs, and you can buy ETFs for everything. You can buy it for copper. You can buy it for the euro. You can buy it to mirror Bitcoin futures or other virtual exchanges, currencies. So my view on crypto currency, I own some, a small, almost insignificant amount of cryptocurrency. It's for everybody. It's high risk. It continues to be an experiment. And again, with the demography here in our Rotaract meeting here, inherently, I mean, you're young. You can make mistakes. Again, don't put your down payment for your apartment into crypto. It's highly volatile. It's an experiment, and the underlying technology also here, including like blockchain, obviously I find highly valid and highly revolutionary. We're not there yet in terms of bandwidth and speed and processing times, but the blockchain technology for sure has its merits, undoubtedly. And again, cryptocurrencies themselves, plural, it's an experiment, so high risk. So keep that in mind. And well, if you think again demographically, of course, if you think you can bear some risk for probably a low percentage of your assets, probably even a low single percentage of your assets, low single percentage of your assets.
I have a question. So beyond retirement, as you mentioned earlier, you were a part of this club, and you were the president about 20 years ago. So my question is, any advice besides like the 401k part about like finances for the members of the club, like, or at least like, what was something that you did 20 years ago that you wish you hadn't done? Like, what lesson did you learn that you can share with us?
Yeah, a few things on that. And actually, I did, again, no amount too small. I did from my first paycheck on. I put dollars away into the 401k, and I could not be happier about it. Then what I would have loved to do, but also it was structurally not and financially and then structurally not possible. I wish I would have bought a place to live in. sooner and paid less rent. So that is something where you might consider, again, if you are in a fortunate situation where you have a down payment for an apartment, maybe consider as part of the mix. Again, I mentioned like a tiny part with cryptocurrency, but as part of your asset mix, of your planning, of your asset planning, to also here consider perhaps owning your place. Again, nothing also there. Again, I know with the real estate bubble at the time in Arizona and in Miami, prices had dropped 50% in some neighborhoods where there was like an overheated market for condos. But a solid real estate investment, make that part of the mix. And I've done it later than I could have or later than I should have. So and if I think about, hey, here in New York, whatever we pay, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 in rent. Here, if you have a down payment and if you take out a mortgage or a 30-year mortgage, you can essentially for the price of your rent, start owning your place. And again, that's something I wish I could have done faster. Maybe, but structurally, I probably really couldn't have done it faster. But yeah, think about it as you navigate through life about owning your place or owning a place.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time for us. I think it was very informative. And I hope to see you on other events. And again, we will be circulating the events you mentioned. Thank you, everybody. We came to the end of the program. It's already 8. So without any further ado, have a nice evening, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you again, Stefan.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.